Hello, kia ora, g'day, I'm Philip Duncan from Weather Watch TV on YouTube with your Australia-only weather forecast for the next 7 days ahead, including your 7-day rainfall outlook. Let's have a look at the satellite and lightning map this morning. The rain radar you can see in the green shading, a little tricky with all the different colours, but most of that wet weather coming in around Victoria and Tasmania, along with all those thunderstorms, coastal thunderstorms around Victoria, and those thunderstorms more likely in the northern and western sides of Tassie. The other area of energy is Western Australia. That low has really exploded into life, as we said would happen, all these thunderstorms forming as a result of that. Not as much green showing up because there's not as many rain radars actually out in this part of Australia, but there's plenty of downpours and wet weather moving along some parts of Western Australia today. Now, as you go into New South Wales, the colours you see here in the blues and the yellows, that is higher level cloud, because you're running into high pressure the further north you go, low pressure the further south you go. So a classic example of as you go south into low pressure, thunderstorms, downpours coming in as winds turn southwesterly here for Tassie, and the wet weather. And then you come up into New South Wales, clouds more likely to be drier, and then they thin out into high cloud the further north you go. And that's kind of what we're seeing, some high cloud around parts of Australia between higher pressure and lower pressure to the south. That low pressure to the south is certainly going to be around over the next week ahead. It is not just a brief blip. We have got more low pressure. The one at the moment to the southeast here being driven by a really big storm down towards Antarctica. But as you can see, there's higher pressure in the brighter shading further to the north. So that's why we're not seeing as much rain coming in to New South Wales at the moment. But the low over in Western Australia, that is why you're getting some downpours. And the purple shading up in the tropical areas just shows a wee bit of low pressure around. So you might get a shower here and there, but really not a lot of energy up in the tropical part of Australia. But the low in Western Australia is about to merge with this other low south of Western Australia over the next couple of days. And that is going to be noticed here on Friday. It's going to fuel more windy thunderstorm weather for the southwest, which will then drift along the southern coastline in the days ahead. So if we start with Friday going into the afternoon here in Western Australia, the severe weather box in the southwest, mostly for thunderstorms and squally showers as that comes on through. A few other showers along the coastline coming into South Australia, and then once you move further eastwards into more populated areas and coming into Victoria, drier, windier, milder conditions. A few showers continue around Queensland, 1 or 2 thunderstorms, otherwise really very little to talk about in Queensland. Not much to talk about at all for the Northern Territory and the top half of Western Australia, apart from a few showers there in the Midwest. Eastern areas, fairly dry. Could be a couple of showers for the southeast part of Queensland and a couple of coastal showers for New South Wales. But you'll be pleased to know, especially in New South Wales, those easterlies are about to be replaced by westerlies, which are usually warmer, drier as they come on through, and usually sunnier as well. So the high is over the top of Bass Strait. Few showers remain here, but really the energy eases on Friday over on the southeast side. The wind energy now in the southwest side. So as we go into 5 o'clock Saturday, just before the sun rises, blustery conditions moving in, spreading out further northwards and further inland and further along the southern coastline. So at 5 a.m, that's where we expect the windy weather to be, with gusts getting up to about 90 kilometres an hour. Remember, that's a gust map, not sustained at that, but blustering and going up to those winds. And that's usually when it comes in as the form of showers, squally kind of showers. That is why the severe weather box is here on Saturday. You've got blustery conditions where you could be seeing damaging winds in some areas. You've also got thunderstorms that could be causing localized wind in some areas. And you've also got the heavy downpours in there. So a few things going on for Western Australia. Those showers taper off inland, further northwards as well. Now you go further out to the east, and most of the rest of Australia windy with northerlies coming on through, especially central areas pushing into South Australia and the outback parts of New South Wales. We are seeing windy northerlies coming through there. A few showers around Queensland, a couple of thunderstorms in there. Some of those showers sneak into the northern rivers and maybe a little further south into New South Wales, but that is drying out really as we go into the weekend because of the windy northerly flow. So the burst of windy weather carries on Saturday. It's not just the southwest of Western Australia, but it fans right out into central areas and it pushes back down into South Australia. The red is showing gusts just up to gale force. Not usually too problematic, but it can cause issues for small planes. They can be delayed or flights cancelled. Dust storms can be a problem as well. Hanging out the laundry, gusty, dusty wind going by, not the best. And the worst of those winds look to be in the southwest of Western Australia, coastal areas, especially I would say Albany to Esperance as we go into the later part of Saturday. Sunday, all right, thunderstorms and showers now on this convergence line. 2 high pressure zones, one in the Tasman Sea, that is pushing in easterlies for Queensland and those windy northerlies for inland areas and coming into New South Wales and Victoria. Low pressure south of Australia combining with that high to make it especially windy around Victoria and maybe going further into the mountains later on. Then the other main high pressure zone is just off the map here over the Indian Ocean. So between the 2 big highs, this one dragging down northerlies for eastern Australia and the other one dredging up southerlies, means that we've got that line of convergence forming in the middle, and that's going to create some inland windy conditions and some thunderstorms and showers as well. So places like Broken Hill, gusty conditions could be getting up to 90 kilometres an hour. That's severe gale, but remember it is gust form, it's not sustained at that. But further down into Victoria, those winds could be getting up to damaging over 110 kilometres an hour potentially there, as will parts of Bass Strait, breaks apart as you go further into Tasmania. So here is Monday, wintry weather for Western Australia, thunderstorms, squally showers, and potentially the chance of an isolated tornado. That sounds kind of dramatic, but keep in mind most of the coastline people don't live on, like it's the same in New Zealand. The actual areas that are populated are quite small in the big picture, and so thunderstorms and damaging conditions can often miss people. But just letting you know, the risk zone does cover some towns and villages in that part of Australia, some cities in there too. So windy weather coming in, but hopefully it's not too problematic. The risk scale there right at the bottom of it. And then you've got this line of convergence coming out of the Northern Territory into the southeast corner where you've got some heavier rain piling up against the hills. And then around Tasmania, separate weather thanks to a storm just south of you, windy westerlies, more wet weather coming in for you. But Tuesday next week is probably when things get interesting, the middle of next week, Tuesday and Wednesday. We see this line of convergence getting better organised, heavier downpours as that high from the Indian Ocean moves closer to the high that's still stuck over Tasmania. And the closer these 2 highs get, the more of a squash is going on in the middle. And that can create severe gales, especially when there's low pressure in the middle. So we're watching for windy weather exiting Western Australia, moving into South Australia by Tuesday, and then further into South Australia, another system here, the convergence, the thunderstorms, and some windy conditions that could still move around left, right, northwest, you know what I mean, over the next week. So don't 100% lock that in, but we're monitoring this very closely as it could produce severe thunderstorms over a widespread area. And then by Wednesday of next week, all gets consolidated into one very large low pressure system. What do we define a storm as? Usually gale force winds all the way around the center of this system. Now, this one looks a bit borderline for gale force winds up here around the northern side of it, but you could still be seeing some gales all the way wrapped around that system. So I would class it as a storm. So we'll have to wait another day or two to lock that in. We'll do that again on Friday. We'll have a closer look at that. But low pressure certainly is the main feature here. The blue ring you see, that's some leftover polar air higher up. So that means when you get those afternoon or daytime showers bubbling up, the rain can freeze to heavy hail, and that can also be a problem and can cause thunderstorms. So we'll be watching Wednesday of next week and Tuesday very closely. By Thursday, it looks like it's pushing out to the Tasman Sea and then off towards New Zealand for the following weekend. And now we get dredged up ahead of the next big high, the next southerly. So southerlies come on through, temperatures drop. We may see a few snow flurries coming back to the mountains. Doesn't look too major just yet, but wet weather certainly is going to be spreading through a number of places around New South Wales, South Australia, Western Australia, Victoria, and potentially parts of Tasmania and the A.C.T. They're a bit more borderline, as are other parts inland are further away. So let's make sense of the rainfall I just mentioned. Here is the 7-day rainfall map. You can see all the cold fronts sweeping Western Australia, then the line of convergence where you get repetitive showers over the next few days as they form, and of course that more explosive, heavier stuff going into the middle to later part of next week. Heaviest rain near the ACT on the western side, going into New South Wales, where you could be seeing 100 millimetres in the purple there. Other areas in the reds and the browns getting up to 60, 80 millimetres, and also the southwest corner, 100 millimetre potential there. So we're still really seeing the dry season to the top remain mostly dry, and we're still seeing the unsettled spring weather pattern. Whether you define this as spring already or you're waiting for the astronomical date, it doesn't really matter because the weather's already spring-like. So that's what we're seeing at the moment around the south. Today's flight simulator place of the day is Flinders Island in Tasmania. Pretty cool. Not to be mistaken with the Flinders Island in South Australia. So this is the forecast at the moment, 13 to 21 degrees. Keep in mind the 21 is probably only on one of those days, and 10 to 17 degrees, and again, keep in mind that warmer one probably just one night, but actually not too bad, and that's because a lot of windy weather is going to be moving through here straight off the sea, right in to Whitemark here, and the airport, which is just a little bit further to the north. Population, 308 people, highest elevation on the island, 756 metres, and with plenty of showers coming through. What are your dry days? Friday, Saturday, and next Thursday look to be the driest. Otherwise, you've got rain and showers all around over the coming week. And that is all from me. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I'll see you again tomorrow, Friday, as we take a closer look at the weekend and a recap on that severe weather potential for Australia next week. I'll see you then.